When I offered to sew my granddaughter's dress for her school play, my daughter-in-law laughed and said, "We don't wear grandma's rags." The dress I gave her instead made the whole audience stand still when the lights hit one hidden detail. I'm a 67-year-old woman living in Omaha, Nebraska, and I used to work full-time as a seamstress. I'm talking real sewing, decades of custom gowns, from dresses, uniforms, theater costumes. Not that vinyl garbage people buy online now. Back then, if you wanted something to fit right and last, you came to someone like me. I retired about 8 years ago. My hands ache a bit now, and my eyesight isn't what it used to be, but I can still stitch a hem cleaner than anything you'll find in a store. I keep my old sewing room tidy, fabric folded by color, drawers of buttons, threads, pins, all of it. That room is where I still feel like myself. My son, Mark, is in his late 30s. Solid kid. Grew up around the hum of my sewing machine. Always respected the work I did, even if he didn't fully understand it. He married a woman named Tiffany about a decade ago. From day one, I could tell she didn't think much of me. She grew up in Dallas, her family had money, and everything about her screamed image and status. You know the type: smooth hair, expensive shoes, passive-aggressive comments wrapped in a smile. They have a daughter together, Chloe. She's 10 now. Bright, curious, sensitive, just a beautiful soul. When she was younger, she used to come over and sit with me while I worked. I'd give her little scraps of fabric to play with, teach her how to thread a needle. She loved it. But over the last few years, I've barely seen her. Tiffany controls the schedule: playdates, dance, enrichment classes, church groups. Every time I try to schedule something, there's always a reason it won't work. Truth is, Tiffany doesn't want Chloe picking up my habits. I can see it in the way she acts around me. She tolerates me because she has to, but deep down, she thinks I'm trash. A cute little poor grandma who sews things. She hides it well most of the time, but the contempt slips out more and more. It all came to a head 3 months ago. Chloe landed the lead role in her school's spring play. Some fairy tale thing with princesses and dragons. She was thrilled, couldn't stop talking about it. I was thrilled for her too, and I wanted to do something special. So during a Sunday dinner at their house, something we do maybe once a month, I offered to make her costume. I was excited. I'd done hundreds of performance pieces in my life. I knew what stage lights did to fabric, how to make things shimmer and move. I said, "If you want, I could make Chloe's dress for the play. It'd be a nice memory for her." Mark smiled and said something like, "That'd be cool, Mom." But Tiffany didn't even look up from her phone. Just gave this little laugh, short and sharp, and said, "Oh no, thanks. We don't wear grandma's rags." She said it like I'd offered her kid-used toilet paper. Then she went back to scrolling, sipping her wine like nothing happened. I sat there frozen. I actually looked around the table to see if anyone else had heard it. Mark looked embarrassed. Chloe looked confused. She said, "But Grandma makes pretty dresses." And Tiffany gave her this smile that didn't reach her eyes and said, "We've already ordered one, sweetie. From a real designer. In Chicago. Remember?" I didn't say another word for the rest of dinner. I went home early. I couldn't sleep that night. I sat in my sewing room until nearly 3 a.m., staring at fabric I'd bought over the years, some of it rare, expensive, saved for something special. I kept hearing her words in my head. Grandma's rags. I thought about the calluses on my hands, the 16-hour shifts I used to pull during prom season, the wedding gowns I repaired last minute for nervous brides. And somehow this woman, this spoiled woman who never lifted a finger to make anything real in her life, thought she could reduce me to a joke. So I decided to make Chloe's dress anyway. I wasn't going to give it to Tiffany. I was going to give it to Chloe. Quietly. No confrontation. No drama. I spent 2 weeks on it. I picked a soft lavender silk I'd been saving. The kind of silk that breathes under light and looks different from every angle. I hand-stitched silver beading around the collar and wrists, tiny seed beads, the kind that catch just enough light to shimmer without looking tacky. But the real magic was underneath, a second layer of organza beneath the skirt. On it, I hand-embroidered a constellation map using glow-in-the-dark thread. It took me 6 nights, a magnifier, and more patience than I thought I had left. I knew from an earlier visit to the school auditorium that the last scene had dim lighting with a strong spotlight. I wanted the stars to glow when the lights hit just right. The day of the dress rehearsal, I brought the dress to the school. I knew Tiffany would have already dropped Chloe off. I'd called ahead and spoken to Chloe's teacher, who remembered me from past PDA things and thought the dress idea was wonderful. Chloe lit up when she saw it. She tried it on, twirled, looked down at the beads and gasped. I didn't tell her about the glow-in-the-dark part. I wanted her to be surprised too. That night, I showed up for the play and sat in the middle row. Tiffany and Mark were 2 rows ahead of me. She had her hair perfect, wore a blazer with gold buttons and designer heels that clicked every time she crossed her legs. She looked calm, in control, like she always does. Then the curtain rose, and there was Chloe, wearing my dress. Tiffany's head snapped toward the stage, then toward me. She knew. She leaned toward Mark. I saw her mouth something. I'm guessing she gave her that dress. She didn't smile. She didn't clap. But the rest of the room? Oh, they noticed. Especially during the final scene. Chloe stepped into the spotlight, and the constellations began to glow under her skirt like a sky full of stars. There was a hush, followed by whispers, then soft gasps. I saw 3 people lift their phones to take photos. The audience didn't just clap. They cheered. When the play ended, I waited in the hallway. Chloe came running. Grandma, the stars lit up. She hugged me so hard, I almost cried. Tiffany came out a few minutes later, face like stone. She looked me up and down and said, "Where did you even get that fabric?" I smiled and said, "Oh, just some old rags I had lying around." She didn't say a word, just turned and walked toward the car. I haven't been invited back to their house since. But Chloe's been calling more. She even asked Mark if she could spend a Saturday with me next month to learn sewing. Mark said yes. Tiffany didn't look thrilled, but she didn't fight it this time. I don't need to scream to be heard. I don't need to fight her to win. I just needed that moment, that silence, that spotlight, that dress. After the play, I thought things might shift. Not between me and Tiffany. We were never going to be close, but maybe she'd back off a little. Maybe she'd finally see I wasn't some old burden trying to insert myself where I didn't belong. I was wrong. At first, there was silence. No thank you. No acknowledgement. Just nothing. I figured Tiffany was stewing, trying to save face after what happened at the school. A few parents had come up to me afterward and asked where I bought the dress. I told them I made it. One woman said it was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen in a school play. Another dad even asked if I took commissions. Tiffany had to stand there and listen to all that, her designer dress clutched in a garment bag, completely ignored. So, when I didn't hear anything for a week, I thought, maybe that was it. Maybe she'd sulk, but let it go. Then Chloe stopped answering my calls. The first time I called, it rang 3 times and went to voicemail. I left a message. Nothing. The second time, straight to voicemail. I texted Mark. He said, "Chloe's busy with school, Mom. Tiffany doesn't want her distracted right now." Distracted? She's 10. We're not talking about college prep. I called again, the next week. Same thing. I finally got a hold of Mark while he was at work. I could tell he sounded uncomfortable. Said Tiffany didn't like how I undermined her authority by giving Chloe the dress without telling her first. I said, "Mark, you knew she didn't even thank me. That girl lit up that stage because of what I made." He got quiet. Then he said, "I know, Mom, but please just let it cool off. Chloe misses you, but Tiffany's really upset." Let it cool off? For what? For doing something kind? For making my granddaughter feel beautiful on the most important night of her little life? 2 weeks later, I got a call from Chloe's teacher. She told me, off the record, that she was concerned. Said Chloe had been quieter than usual. Told her she wasn't allowed to talk about the play at home. That her mom said the dress was tacky and embarrassing. I sat there holding the phone, my mouth open. Asked if Chloe had said anything else. The teacher paused and said, "She told me she wished she could live with you." That broke me. A week later, I tried to drop off some sewing patterns for Chloe. Just a few fun kid designs I thought she might like. Tiffany opened the door halfway, blocking the view inside. She didn't even let me step in. She looked me up and down and said, "We're not encouraging this little obsession. She needs to focus on real goals, not sewing." I said, "You mean the dress that got her a standing ovation?" She narrowed her eyes and said, "She only wore it because she felt sorry for you. She's a child. She doesn't know any better. But I do." That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just about a dress. This woman was actively trying to erase me from Chloe's life. The next time I saw Chloe was at the grocery store, completely by accident. I was picking up some thread when I spotted them in the frozen food aisle. Chloe saw me, lit up, and ran straight to me. "Grandma." She hugged me so tight I had to blink back tears. Tiffany came around the corner seconds later. Her face dropped when she saw us. She didn't say a word, just grabbed Chloe's arm hard and said, "We're late. Say goodbye." Chloe clung to my hand. "But I want to go to Grandma's house." Tiffany yanked her away. I said, "You don't get to do this. You don't get to cut me out of her life because your pride's bruised." Tiffany turned back to me, smiled in that cold way of hers, and said, "Watch me." Then she walked off, dragging Chloe behind her. I stood there in the aisle, holding a spool of thread in one hand and my breath in the other. I felt humiliated, powerless, angry in a way I hadn't felt since my husband walked out on me 30 years ago and left me with 2 kids and a mortgage. But this was worse, because now it was my grandchild being pulled away.
And Tiffany?
She wasn't going to stop until Chloe forgot who I was. So I started planning. Not something loud. Not something illegal. Something slow. Subtle.
Permanent.
She wanted war? She'd picked the wrong grandmother. After that grocery store encounter, I kept my distance, but I didn't stop watching. Mark and I stayed in touch, though it got awkward. He was always too busy to talk long, or he'd rush off the phone with vague promises to figure something out soon. I knew he was walking on eggshells at home. Tiffany ruled that house like a CEO, tight schedule, strict rules, no room for anything outside her control. And Chloe? She was slipping through my fingers. I started volunteering again, quietly, at the same elementary school where Chloe went. Once a week, just helping with the costume closet for the drama club. The teacher who'd called me earlier, Mrs. Ellis, welcomed me with open arms. She remembered what I'd done for Chloe's play and was still telling people about that glowing dress. The second week I was there, I saw Chloe in the hallway. She froze, looked around like she wasn't sure if she could even speak to me. Then she ran over and hugged me like she hadn't breathed in days. She whispered, "I'm not supposed to talk to you, but I miss you so much." I held her as long as I could. She told me Tiffany had thrown the dress out, just stuffed it into a garbage bag, and told Chloe she looked cheap wearing it. I didn't even ask why. I already knew. That dress made people notice me. It made Chloe shine in a way Tiffany couldn't control. That night, I didn't sleep. My hands itched for something to do. So I called a friend from my old sewing days, Dee, a loud, fierce woman who runs a boutique over in Benson. She used to hire me to do custom work for her shop when I needed the extra money. Still owed me a few favors. I asked if she'd be interested in launching a few kids' costume pieces under a new label, small batch, hand-sewn, storybook quality dresses. Nothing too fancy. Just something that felt magical again.
She jumped on it.
Within 6 weeks, I had samples done. We named the line Starthread. Every dress came with one secret detail, something hidden in the hem or lining. A constellation. A stitched-in message. A name sewn in gold. We sold out the first batch in under a week. Then something unexpected happened. One of the moms from Chloe's school posted a photo of her daughter in one of my dresses. Tagged the boutique. Used the caption, "Handmade by Chloe's grandma." The same one who made that famous glowing play dress. It blew up in the local parenting groups. Within days, people were emailing Dee asking for commissions.
A small blog wrote about me.
I got calls from old clients, even one from the community theater. For the first time in years, my phone was ringing with want, not pity. That's when Tiffany started showing signs of real panic. Mark called me, out of the blue, and said, "Tiff thinks you're using Chloe's name to sell stuff." I said, "She's not your brand. She's your daughter. And she's mine too." A week later, I got a cease and desist letter in the mail. Tiffany had hired a lawyer. She was threatening to sue me for unauthorized use of Chloe's identity and emotional interference. I laughed out loud. A full, ugly, bitter laugh. I called the lawyer listed. Left one message. "This isn't about a name. This is about a mother who's afraid her child might love someone else more than her. Tell your client to be careful what she starts, because I finish things." They didn't call back. But they didn't need to, because the real twist came from Chloe herself. About a month later, Mark called me and asked if we could talk alone. We met at a diner halfway between our houses. He looked wrecked, said he didn't know how to say this, but Chloe had been writing in a school journal about how she hated being told she couldn't see me. Said I was the only person who made her feel seen. Said she wanted to live with me someday. The school flagged it during a guidance session. It was serious enough that CPS had to follow up. Tiffany was livid. Not just because of the CPS visit, but because her perfect world had a crack in it, and it wasn't coming from me. It was coming from Chloe. Mark sat across from me, head in his hands, and said, "I think we messed up. I think she's scared of her own mother." That hit me hard, because this wasn't just a petty rivalry anymore. It wasn't just about a dress, or respect, or being called rags. This was a child getting swallowed up by control, image, ego, and finally saying no. I looked at my son and said, "Then what are you going to do about it?" He didn't answer, but he didn't go home that night either. Mark stayed at my house that night. He said he couldn't go home. Said Tiffany lost it when CPS showed up. Screamed for hours. Accused him of choosing his trashy mother over his wife. Said Chloe was turning into a little liar and that it was all my fault. He told me Chloe had run to her room crying. He tried to go in and comfort her, and Tiffany blocked the door. Physically stood there and screamed at him until he left the house. He didn't even pack a bag. Just drove. I gave him the guest room and said, "You're a grown man now. You decide what kind of father you want to be." The next morning, he called a lawyer. It wasn't about custody, not yet. But it was enough to scare Tiffany. He wanted to set up formal visitation. Wanted Chloe to have weekends with me, supervised at first if needed. Said if Tiffany fought it, he was ready to talk about everything. The yelling, the emotional control, the way she isolated Chloe from people. The first weekend Tiffany let Chloe come over, it was tense. She stood on the porch like she was delivering a package, not her daughter. Didn't say hello. Just looked at me like she was swallowing glass. Chloe ran straight into my arms. She didn't stop smiling for the next 48 hours. I taught her how to use the sewing machine. We made a headband together, then a pillow. She cried when she had to leave. Tiffany didn't say a word when she picked her up. Just glared. But it was too late. The crack had spread. I didn't need to push. I just kept doing what I'd always done. Quiet, steady love. And the more Chloe saw it, the more she started to ask for it. More weekends came. Then full weeks during school breaks. Chloe even told her school counselor she wanted to spend the whole summer with me. Tiffany tried to block it, but this time, Mark put his foot down. "You don't get to erase my mother," he told her. "Not after everything you've done." She threatened divorce. Mark said, "Go ahead." She didn't. But the mask had dropped, and not just at home. Word had gotten out about how she treated me. The boutique owner, Dee, started telling customers about the dress story. I didn't ask her to. But it spread because people love seeing arrogance fall. One mom from Chloe's school wrote a Facebook post. Tiffany tried to stop her daughter from wearing a handmade dress to her school play. Guess which one got a standing ovation? It went local viral. Tiffany's reputation, her precious image, started to crack. No one wanted to do PTA meetings with her anymore. One woman called her a stage parent without the talent. Another said, maybe let someone who's actually done something raise her kid for once. She tried to save face by volunteering for a school event. Brought in store-bought snacks, wore heels, acted like royalty. Chloe ignored her the whole time.
Sat next to me.
Showed off the new dress we made together. An indigo skirt with stitched moons across the hem. When someone asked where it came from, she said, loud and proud, my grandma made it. She makes everything I love. Tiffany didn't even look up. The final blow came in spring. The local children's theater reached out. They were starting a youth costume design program and wanted me to help lead it. Asked if I'd be willing to mentor kids, especially one named Chloe, who apparently told her teacher she wanted to be a costume maker when she grows up. They printed a little article about it in the Omaha World Herald. Nothing huge, just a local piece. But the photo they used said everything.
Me. Chloe.
Smiling in the sewing room, surrounded by fabric and light. Tiffany saw it. I know she did. Because Mark told me she ripped it out of the paper and threw it in the trash. But the story's still online. And that photo? It's framed on Chloe's nightstand now. Tiffany hasn't spoken to me since. Not one word. But she can't erase me. She can't erase that dress. Or the applause. Or the glow that came from something real, not something bought. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to fight. I stitched my revenge with silk and thread.
And now?
She lives with silence. I live with love. And my granddaughter? She lives in the light.